Hello, hello, everyone. And we want to welcome you guys to another episode of the You Thrive Everyday Show. So, in this segment of the You Thrive Everyday Show, we're going to be interviewing people and figuring out their trials and tribulations and how they were able to thrive through them. Okay. And so, me and my guests are on mommy time. Now we hear babies in the background. This is what's going on, okay? Okay, so first of all, Crystal, please introduce yourself and let us know where you're from and who raised you.
My name's Crystal. I am from San Diego, and my mom raised me technically.
You're by herself.
Yeah.
So you know stepdads, no nothing.
I mean, I lived with my grandma for a little bit, lived with my dad for a little bit, but the
Okay.
very last I was with my mom.
So okay, hold on. So how did that go? We were with mom, then grandma. Explain that.
So my parents got divorced when I was really little, and then I went with my mom, and then my dad came and got me, and I went to South Carolina with him. So I was in South Carolina for a little bit, and then she came and got me with the military police and took me back from South Carolina to San Diego. When she got back to San Diego, she was doing drugs and she couldn't really support me. So I wound up living with my grandma. And then my mom got an apartment and um, wind up having me come back to live with her. And then she got pregnant with my brother, and then she stopped using drugs and stuff. But so I went back to live with her, and that's where I
How old were
remained
you
after
at
that.
that point?
Uh, I think I was 10 or 11,
10 or 11. And so at
probably 10.
10, did you know that she had a drug problem? Or was that something that you guys didn't talk about?
Um, I I'm pretty sure I knew because she used to, when I lived with my grandma, she would come and ask me to borrow money, and she'd be like, "Don't tell grandma," and I'm like, "Okay, of course, that's my mom. I'm gonna, yeah, of course." And so my little $5 my grandma gave me a week to take out the trash and help her clean, I would give to my mom, and I never told grandma, but that's just what happened.
And then so from 11 on, you were with her.
hmm
Okay. So what's going on with 11-year-old Crystal?
So at 10, my brother was born,
Okay.
right? And so we're 10 years apart. My mom was still smoking weed, still drinking, whatever, whatever. And uh, I wanted to take care of my brother. I wanted to help. So I used to do that. And then it became like kind of expected to, because she wanted to go hang out with her boyfriend or go whatever she was going to do. She didn't work at that time. She was collecting the welfare. And so, uh, yeah, we pretty much became like more friends, so to speak, because around age 13, that's when I started smoking weed with her and drinking and partying like we're best friends. And she kind of said it was her way of like commuting with me, or partaking in something with me. I mean, that's not what I do with my kid, but
But that's what she knew at the time. You know what I mean? That was the activity she liked to do. So she was like, this is how I can bond with my daughter. Maybe
Mhm.
she didn't know any other way, you know?
Right.
Okay, so at 13 now you guys are drinking and partying together, right? So
Mhm.
now in your mind,
I thought this shit was normal.
okay, and
Yeah,
then
I didn't know
so
anything else.
you're partying and drinking with her. I'm sure that carried on into your social life outside of her.
Oh yeah, of course, cuz I went to my dad's for one summer, and when I came back, they were hanging out. My mom was hanging out with some people from her work. And it happened to be two guys and his mom, and they all worked together. And I happened to like one of the guys, and he was 18. Not, I'm only 13 at that time. So we wind up hooking up, and my mom was like okay with it, you know. Um, but yeah, so we wound up hooking up, and I was getting drunk and smoking weed, all of us together alone. You know, I was allowed to spend the night at his house. He was allowed to spend it at my house, you know. And my mom didn't think we were having sex or anything like that, but it was happening. And luckily, I never got pregnant at that time. But,
So is that your virginity, this guy?
mm-hmm.
And so did you ever at that age come out and tell her like, "Ma, we we doing the thing."
Oh, she wound up finding out because, like later, like when I was 16, my second boyfriend, she pretty much caught us in bed. And later down the road, when we were smoking weed together, drinking whatever, I wound up telling her, like, oh, yeah, so you didn't think me and him were having sex? And then she was like, no. And I'm like, well, you're just a little naive for that because, come on. He was 18 years old. It's not like he's gonna be that much of a gentleman for that long. It was a couple years we were together, you know?
And so wait a minute. Y'all got caught having sex, the second boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what that looked like and what you felt like and what the fuck happened.
Uh, uh, she had came home from work like early or something, and uh, basically she caught the tail end of it. She didn't like see anything, but she caught the tail end of it, and it was it was a little messed up because we couldn't find the condom afterwards. And I won't even go into that, but but yeah,
This
so
happens. This happens. This happens.
mhm.
And
You
I be
already know
wanting
where
to
I'm
know
going with that.
what's going on in everybody's mind as this is happening. Like, did she try to mess him up? Did he run out? Like,
You know what? She's not that type. She was the type to like turn the other way and act like nothing happened. And then later be like, what the hell? But I got that from her too. So I'm the type to act like nothing happened too until something said. And then I kind of play it off like really nonchalant because that's just how she was and how she taught me to be, you know?
so we're smoking weed, we're drinking at 16. Were we doing any other experimentations with drugs?
So, yeah, I had done mushrooms, or no, yeah, I had done mushrooms and acid just like a couple times, and I didn't like it. The acid scared the crap out of me. I did that like twice, and I never did that again.
Why did it scare you?
I just thought the devil was gonna chase me forever. Because the next day at school, like the in math class, the things on the wall it was like shapes of like demon faces, and it was scary as heck.
So now looking back on it, could you consider that a message? And if so, what do you think the message was?
Don't do drugs.
Right? Okay, so then we got the acid, we got the mushrooms, we're hallucinating, as people call it, on these drugs. We don't like them. So then what's going on next with the experimentation?
So nothing really happened until I started dancing when I was probably like 19. Um, I dabbled in cocaine and pills and whatnot. And I didn't really do that too much, but then I met this girl at the club and we started hooking up. And at that point, that's when it got real. And I got real deep into it. Um, and then the coke kind of slowed down, but the pills were like taking off. Xanax, Somas, pretty much just Xanax and Somas and Valium. And I was doing a lot of those. Going to Mexico, uh, like once a week to pick up like $500 worth of pills, which is like 4 bottles, 5 bottles, 6 bottles.
And so what started you dancing?
Um, I really needed to get a car, and I grew up real poor, and I wanted to get ahead of things, and that was the only way to to get a car was to start making more money than my first job was paying me, which was Taco Bell. And at that time, I think minimum wage was like $6. I think it was like $6, $7, something like that.
And then so you go your first night dancing and you like, fuck Taco Bell.
Pretty much. That is pretty much what happened. I was like, "Phew, okay, bye."
Okay, so so take me through this journey. So we need some money, we need a car. We're now
Yep.
dancing. We're partying a little bit. So what do you feel is, because we can now look back, right, and have these moments in time. Where do you think that it started to kind of get out of control?
Oh, geez. Um, Probably when I met my daughter's father. I never did crystal before that relationship. And I'm not saying it's because of him, because it could have happened anyways, regardless, who knows. But at some point, the coke wasn't enough and the crystal came into play. And that was his choice of drugs, was the crystal. And I never wanted to do it because my mom, screwed up a lot of my childhood or whatever. But like I said, I'm not blaming him or anybody for that matter. But yeah, it was shortly after we hooked up, because I had everything. I had money in the bank. I had money saved up. I had a lot of money saved up. I worked a lot and things were good. And I partied every couple weeks, and eventually it became like every other week. And then, you know, every few days, and then it was every day, and I
And so,
couldn't stop.
Every time it is off and goes off forever and ever and ever.
okay, so like we were
But
saying, you were saying that it was out of control. You were feeling like at this point you couldn't stop. How long had you guys been, partying at this point?
uh, at that point, it was a good solid like year on coke, and I was selling the coke. Um, all, all kinds of other stuff was happening. Like I was selling it, and then I tried selling the crystal, but you know, my ex was like doing it all before I could sell it or giving it away. But yeah, it was probably a good year. I was in the coke game and dabbling into the crystal. I was probably in it for 3, 4, 5 months, and it was like it's just the euphoria that I got from it was unreal. But then there's like that paranoia and all kinds of other shit that came with it. But
So, what does paranoia look like? Because I know for some of us who, smoke weed, when you're beginning, sometimes you can feel paranoia and it's like an anxious feeling, like something's about to happen, who's about to come, you know. So is it the same difference or are there voices, like what goes on with that type of paranoia?
so for me, it was like I was always looking out the blinds, or I was always like trying to see like who's coming, thinking I'm hearing somebody at the door, but it's really nothing. And sounds are so much like louder.
Mhm.
And so you tend to think like everything's so much louder than what it really is, and it's not. It's like a pen dropping, and you're like, oh my God, something shattered, you know?
If you're dancing, why even bother with the hassle of selling drugs?
So I don't know, just so I could get free drugs, I guess. But at that point, when I got too far into it, I was taking like a few weeks off at a time because I couldn't go into work because I'd be just so fucked up, and I couldn't do it. And then before I knew it, weeks were going by, and I was like, dude, I need to get clean for a couple of days or something so I can get back to my normal thing. And I would do that. Um, I was able to do that at first. And then it kept happening more rapidly. And then before I knew it, I went through all my savings. Um, I had built up real shitty credibility at work. And and then when I did go to work, I'd get so messed up on the pills because I was so high on the other stuff that I wound up getting sent home, or I'd passed out, and they would, think just bad things was happening. I'd crash my car,
You crashed your car.
crash my car. That happened a couple times. Um,
And so with the pills, what was the purpose with the pills? Were the pills just to kind of bring you down? You know what I'm saying?
mhm,
And, even it out because like fuck, I'm too high. Okay, let me pop a pill, bring it down.
exactly.
Okay. And then so were the pills as much as an addiction as the crystal? So we had both. So these are uppers and downers. right?
Mhm.
So did we get used to the combination of the drugs? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because you know how you know, with like drinking and alcohol, you know, or drinking and alcohol.
Drinking
You
and
know,
smoking
with
weed.
smoking weed and drinking, right? Like I
Mhm.
at first, see my mouse is moving. I at first didn't I was just a weed smoker, you know? And then when I
Mhm.
started dancing, I got introduced to the alcohol on a more profound level. So then it became the combination of them together was the
Mhm.
buzz, you know what I'm saying, that you prefer, that you like, instead of one over the other, if that makes sense.
Right, and you're chasing that specific high. And like you can't find it, so you keep smoking more and then you keep taking more pills. And then, and then I'd be drinking on top of it sometimes, you know? And so by the end of every night, I was super hammered on every level.
Now, how many years did this go on?
Whew. Um, let's see, probably about 6 years. And then, I got pregnant with my daughter and I quit using. And then shortly after I gave birth to her, a few months into it, me and the ex wanted to go out to the clubs. And then, shortly after that, we got back into our old behaviors. And um,
So let's talk about
short.
pregnancy and being on drugs, because a lot of people have this question, you know, like
Mhm.
how hard was it to stop? You know what I mean? Because
It
you're
wasn't hard because I was so sick that any of the toxic stuff that I was doing, I couldn't do it. I couldn't handle it. Physically could not handle it. I smoked a little bit of weed because it helped me not be nauseous. Um, and it helped me where I could keep my food down. But the cigarettes I couldn't fully give up. I still smoked a little bit of cigarettes. Um, but everything else was pretty easy. Pretty easy. Um,
and so
yeah,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
just thankfully that I did get sick from all the stuff that I was taking, because I probably wouldn't have wanted to quit if it didn't make me sick.
Exactly. Exactly. Because, that's always a big question, especially for, I have siblings, where we have the same father, different mother, you know? And so
Hmm.
their mother, was heavily addicted to crack. And so, as a child, it leaves that question for you, like, why couldn't she quit for me? You know,
Hmm.
I have siblings that were actually born addicted to crack, you know. So that is always a big question out there. People, I don't what I want to emphasize on is the disease, because people who haven't walked this journey don't have an understanding of how much of a hold this drug these drugs have on you, and how
Yeah.
a lot of times that becomes your life, like I'm waking up, okay, how am I going to get high? You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? Can you kind of walk us through that a little bit? Like, do you kind of feel, was it like a body thing, like my body needs this? Or do you feel like, and just from your perspective, or was it just a habit? Like, I do this every day, or was it a combination of both?
Uh, I'd have to say it was, well, for each drug, it held its own captivity on me. For the crystal, it was just more as I was tired. So if I had been doing it for a day, I needed to keep doing it to stay up. Otherwise, I was going to pass out, go to sleep. And if I wasn't trying to go to sleep, I needed to do things or needed not to do anything, but wanted to stay up. You have to keep doing it. As for the pills, it's like it became like I guess it does have its own addiction parts to it, because the Xanax is for anxiety, and if you are over medicating with it, it will make you super anxious when you don't have it, and can definitely be dangerous if you stop taking it on your own. Which I did that once, and I was having seizures from it, and the somas, which is just a muscle relaxer, um, I would be in so much pain if I didn't take it. Don't do that. If I didn't take it. So, yeah, I would take those religiously.
So it was not only the body having effects and saying like I need to be soothed.
Yep.
So
I need my pacifier.
let's go take our medicine, and then
Mm,
two, also it being a habit, you know.
mm.
So it was the combination of both. Okay. So now we're at the point where we've had our daughter. We got clean for a little bit. We had our daughter. And then, oh, that was my question, was while you were pregnant, were you too sick to notice, or did you notice the withdrawal symptoms as you quit while you were pregnant?
I think I was just like too sick to even notice what was actually really making me sick, because I know I was throwing up all day, every day, and I wasn't sure. I still don't know if what it was from, because um, it could have definitely been both of them.
Right. Okay, so now we've had the baby. You and baby daddy are going back out to the clubs. So we kind of get back into the party scene. What happens after that?
So I go back to dancing eventually, and at this point, I had gotten into a really bad car accident and really messed up my hand. And my daughter was, I think, I want to say 1 at the time. So my mom had to come help me take care of her. I go back to work, and I'm like in full effect. And I find out my baby dad is cheating on me. So that just stepped it up a notch. So now heroin's in the game. Heroin starts becoming a part of my normal regimen.
So how did you even get
And
started with the heroin? Like how was that introduced?
so I was doing like Vicodin, and then it was like morphine and Oxycontin and stuff. Well, I couldn't find any. And I was staying at this hotel, and the girl that was staying there as well, her boyfriend sold heroin, and I was selling crystal. And so we're like, hey, she's like, hey, can you trade me? I was like, sure, why not? She gave me this big clump of it, and I was like, that's a lot. And it made me really sick to do it, honestly, but I just kept doing it because I had no other opiate. And then that's how I got addicted to the heroin. If I wouldn't have kept doing it, I wouldn't have.
Crystal, can I get out of all these same ones?
Okay. So now we got this big ass thing heroin from the people. We made an exchange, and so now we're doing heroin. So at this point, how old are you at this point? How many years down the line are we?
Probably 27, 28.
Okay. So now we're a little older, and so heroin is a totally different monster. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so that came into play, and it's a whole different ball game. It really is. Different type of people and everything. Um,
What do you mean by that?
and just there's like the weed smokers and there's drinkers. You can like see the difference in the type of people, like the true weed smokers and the true alcoholics. It's just different types of people. Um, but they will they will go above and beyond to get what they need,
Right.
you know. But at that point, I was still dancing and everything. Uh, I was going into work later and later, trying to get the last hit in before I go to work. Start getting there at like 11 o'clock at night. The money started decreasing, and eventually, I'll speed it up. I got caught. I did a little program. I was drinking and stuff in there. Wasn't like truly sober. Um, Went through that program, got out, and started doing it all over again. But I was clean off heroin for 22 months at that point. But I started doing it all over again. Was working at Wendy's, and wound up getting fired from there eventually. Um, so that this point, I knew I needed to do like some big game steps because I just got a new car and I have like $400 payments and no job at this point. So I'm like, fuck. So I started selling heroin, and little by little I started getting customers. And fast forward, that's when I started getting into fentanyl, the number one killer uh, nowadays. And started selling that. And I was like making so much money, like beyond. And when I got busted the very last time, the cops took $50,000 from me that I had in my storage. Um, and then I did 9 months in jail, and they gave me 4 years, but they gave me a split sentence with a program. And so I took that deal, and I got out of there, did 4 months in rehab. But I mean, to me, it was a long time because I had never been like away from my daughter that long, you know, but I think it was the best thing that happened for me because all the times that I was with my kid, I wasn't like coherent enough to like actually be there, So it's kind of like I wasn't even there. I
Right.
was physically, but not mentally or emotionally. So, I mean, I'm thankful that that day happened. I wish I didn't risk all the money, but It's okay. I'll make my money back.
Of course you will. And okay, so 9 months in jail.
Hmm.
So for those of us who have never been to jail, what did that look like, honey? Because you are beautiful. In jail, what? Was they trying to take your virginity? What was happening?
Let me tell you, I gained a lot of weight in there. My best friend was cookies and cream. um, because I was on all these medications, so it made me gain a lot of weight. So yeah, I gained a lot of weight while I was in there, and it
So
wasn't that bad.
what are the medications?
They had me on Seroquel and Trazodone,
So to
and
like
those
help
like
wean you off.
it basically it helped it like because I had so much PTSD from everything that had happened uh during my addiction with the whole the boyfriend is a whole another story. The abuse and all that, that's a whole different story, but we'll talk about that some other day. And um so basically it was for that so I could sleep and so that I wasn't like having night terrors every night and some more shit.
Right. Okay. So now we're in love with cookies and cream.
Hmm.
We're locked up. So how were the other women in these facilities? You know, was it as tough as, some other people's experiences have been, where you waking up, people trying to beat you up? What was going on?
I have had some really crazy experiences in jail, but at the same time, like we're all there trying to do our thing, and I was in the trustee part where the workers are. So it's a whole different game, like you're all trying to be good so that you don't get kicked out of there because then you lose your special privileges and you're stuck in your cell for 23 and a half hours a day, you know, and you don't get to do anything.
Wow.
And that made your time go by fast when you're working, you know. So it wasn't that bad, but I don't recommend it.
Okay, so 9 months and we're out of there. So who has the baby at this point? Is she with her dad or is she with your mom? She's with her
She
dad.
was with her dad.
And so I'm assuming her dad had got cleaned up at this point.
You would assume, but no. At that point, he had gotten worse.
Okay.
He had gotten worse because he went into the fentanyl
Okay.
really bad at that point. Yeah, because before I went in, he was into it, but there was other family at the place that they were staying at, so they helped take care of her and whatnot. And then when they weren't there, they went to his aunt's. So the aunt would always help take care of her. And she was a lot older. She was, I think, 8, no, 9, 9.
Okay, so she's 8, 9. So we get out. So oh, that was the other questions. I got questions. I know people got questions about these things. So with the fentanyl, because I know a lot of people mix that. I mean, they putting fentanyl on ecstasy pills, on weed, on everything. So were you guys just straight, or were you just straight fentanyl, or were you mixing it?
uh, I used to get the fentanyl pills. They were pressed. The M30s, the blue pills. They were pressed with fentanyl in Mexico. So That's pretty much what I did, but I did have the other straight up fentanyl, and a lot of people like that better than the pills. Um, but it was a lot stronger too. I did have my ex-boyfriend overdosed in front of me. That was really scary. And then one of the guys that uh wanted to try it, he overdosed in front of me. And luckily, both times I was within super radius of the hospital because I dropped them both off at the hospital. My boyfriend I stayed for, but the other guy just left.
And so when you guys, because from what we hear, like a small, so like how do you decipher in your habit? You know what I mean? Especially like you're so fortunate. How do you decipher, okay, I'm just gonna take this because this might send me over. Is it just from watching other people kind of get close to ODing where you're like, okay, not this amount? Or is it just the feeling? Like, I know when I take this amount, my heart's racing, da 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 da. I feel like, so then I know just to keep it at this amount. You know what I mean?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. Basically, what I did if I didn't know the strength of it is I would take the littlest hit and I would blow it out really, really quick. That way I can feel how hard it's going to hit me, with just a little bit I put in my body.
Okay, wow. Um, that's deep. So I already know that we're going to be doing a part two to this. I already know. Okay, so now we're getting out of jail. And so what happens after we get out?
Oh, after we get out, we go straight to rehab. And then after rehab, I get out to a sober living. I start getting on, trying to get a job right away. On the third day, I wound up getting my current job at Benihana's. And then after that, I'm working away trying to get my kid back in my life. I mean, she's in my life, but she wasn't like living with me or anything like that. I didn't have my own place. At the sober living, about I was already out for about a year out of rehab. I met this guy that I'm currently with, and our the things we wanted in life were the same, and I wasn't even trying to be with him. He wasn't trying to be with me. We were actually just neighbors and became friends, and then it just became we were together. And so uh my daughter's father wound up going to rehab, so we were like, dude, we need to get a place like now. um so we quickly were looking and looking and looking, couldn't really find a place. It's so expensive out here, and my credit was really bad when we were looking. And so then his friend was moving out of this apartment we're in currently, and he was like, yeah, just take over my lease. And we're like, okay. So that's what we did. Came all the way out here to Lakeside and moved into this apartment. um Got both of our kids living with us again. And um yeah.
So after the jail spiel, was that the moment where it was like, I'm done with this shit? Like, or was it at what point was it like, I'm done? Like, I'm good. I'm really good.
So when I got caught with the $50,000, which is my last time I was arrested, I was sober, but I was still selling drugs because I still needed money. And so at that point, that's when I was like, I'm done. I'm done with everything about it. The selling, the doing. I'd already been done with the doing, but the selling, I can't do that either. All of it, I can't do it. You know, that was at that point.
Yeah, and motherfuckers feeling stealing 50,000, you know, my
I'm like, the next time I get $50,000, ain't nobody gonna be able to take it because it's gonna be all legal and it's gonna be mine
no,
legally.
they didn't do nothing but keep it. So
Exactly.
I was about to say, did you recoup that
Exactly.
50,000? Because I'm sure they did not.
Well, that's the thing. If I try to claim it, then they really could have taken me up on, you know, more shit.
Wow. So now we're clean. We're not interested in the drug scene. We've been there, done that. And this was going on from 13 to what age?
What was it, 35, 36?
So this was a very long journey. And so how have you had how many experiences did you have where you were like feeling like either you were ODing or very close to ODing?
That I was, um, I think only like one time I really thought that like the other people I was with were like scared. Any other time, maybe I didn't know, but I didn't, I don't know of any other time besides that time because the other people I was with were telling me. I'm sure there probably was other times, but yeah, there is only two times that I was very scared though, and I shared those times with you. Those were scary.
So do you feel like hold on. Yeah, as I was saying, I do appreciate your openness because especially in our cultures and where we grow up in, you know, like smoking and drinking is so common, right? And then you have these
Mm.
old wackadoodle commercials that tell you this is your brain on drugs. Nobody pay attention to that shit. But this is the perfect example of how these are just the preludes. You know what I'm saying? This is like where it starts at, and this is how it can progress. And then for because now we have a lot of young mommies. Okay, I recently had a friend who lost her daughter because of these young mommies that like to party with their children. You understand?
Mm.
And so we have a lot of young mommies that are partying with their babies. And so just give us some words as far as your experience and some words and maybe some advice. You know, so let's start with the child. So as that 13-year-old child, what would you be telling her as she's drinking and chilling with her mommy?
Mm. I would just want to, I would just want to tell them, like, just save all that for later when you're old enough to actually comprehend what these things are going to do to you, you know? Um, and so that you can learn yourself and like how to be yourself and not have to get high to try to fit in even with your mom, you know? Uh, that way your mind develops strongly and concrete and you see things way differently
And then,
when you're
so
on
from the
drugs.
perspective of the mommy, what would you say to the moms that are partying with their children? Their child is their friend, you know?
Your child is your friend only for specific things, and getting high and drinking is not one of them. You know, my daughter never saw anything that I was doing, but she definitely saw the aftermath of how I was, and that wasn't okay either, you know. Um, so I would just say, it's not good. It's not a good thing. And even though my life had a lot of darkness to it, all I did was add more darkness.
And then, so that was the question I was going to ask before. You had a couple of occasions where you felt like, you could be ODing, or do you think that if you had more experiences like that, that would have got you off sooner, or no?
Mm, I don't know. It's hard to say. I was young and stupid and didn't care, and that was my mindset. So, I mean, probably not.
Why do you feel like you didn't care?
I mean, I feel like I didn't because I didn't. I was doing so many things that definitely could have killed me every day.
So when I say, I get that you didn't care, but what happened? What was going on with you that made you feel like you didn't care? Okay. So like I was saying, what was the question that I was asking? Because I really wanted to, um, I totally forgot. We were talking about the OD thing, and maybe if you were close to ODing a couple of more times. Oh, you were saying how you didn't care. And I was trying to get an understanding.
Not that I didn't care, but I didn't care enough, or I didn't see. I, not that I didn't care. Let me take that back. That I just didn't understand what it was doing to me. That's more correct. I didn't really understand how these things were affecting my future and my well-being and the present moment.
So it was a disconnect then. Like at the time, because we're on drugs, so there's no correlation that, my life is, I'm not really happy in my life, and this is why. So let
Mm-hmm.
me quit.
Mm-hmm.
It was more like, I'm unhappy and fuck it. So we're just gonna get high because I'm unhappy. Fuck it. This is life and it's fucked up.
Pretty much. I mean, down to few words, yeah. That's pretty much
That's what I want to get
exactly.
across, because in this community of people, there are so many people that are doing a lot of drugs. Family members, we watch it all the time. That are
Mm-hmm.
doing a lot of drugs, and their life is so fucked up, and they keep saying my life is so fucked up, but they don't leave the drugs alone. And then it's like, if you leave the drugs alone, maybe your life would be a little less fucked up. But now at this point, the drugs have become a companion. And in their mind, it's making the fucked upness easier to deal with as they're high.
It's because these drugs become your family, your friend, but in reality, it's your worst nightmare, your worst enemy, and it's not what you thought it was. You know, it's like everything seems so much better, but it's like an illusion because you're not in your right mind.
I get that. I get that. Crystal, I appreciate your time. We I really wanted to get this out there because, as I said, we are living in a time. I mean, you're even watching it with celebrities all over the news. You know what I'm saying? And all over the social media. The drugs play a huge role. It doesn't matter what your skin color is, all that shit is irrelevant. It doesn't matter if you grew up with what they call a silver spoon, or nigga, if you grew up eating dirt. It does not matter. You
They
know,
don't discriminate.
the drugs don't discriminate. They don't give
Mm-mm.
a
They want to take everything that you have left, your family, your friends, your soul, all of it.
Okay, so just real quick too. After this whole spill, what about spirituality for you? Did you like delve heavy into spirituality? Is it something that you're interested in, or how does that look?
Um, it is something that I'm working with and I've been working with, and I'm very interested in it. I just don't know exactly how to get to that deeper level. You know, I'm on some level of a sort, but it's something that um, I'd like to take to the next level, but I just don't know how to.
Okay, cool. I asked that to say this because in the work that I have been doing, um, and this is my observation because I call myself a spiritual scientist, but this has been my observation is that um the hardest addicts, the addicts that have had the hardest time at it, I've noticed have been the beings that are super gifted in the spiritual realm. And we call it getting high for a reason, right? To get closer to the most high, if that makes,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying? Um, so definitely we're gonna yes, so this is part one to a part two because we're going to get a whole lot deeper into some of the experiences that went on. I really just wanted to talk about the drug use, where your mind was, the different drugs that were experimented with, because as I said, this is important. This is going on heavily with all age groups.
Mhm.
Saying my sperm donor is over 60 and the nigga's been a crackhead for like 40 years. You know what I'm saying?
Damn.
Yes. So yes. So I mean from all different age groups. We got these babies, that are on the drugs all the way, like I said, and to the elderly ages. So this is important. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate your honesty. As I said, we will do another part to this because your story is very important and you're beautiful. So it'll be easier. It's easy for people to look at you and listen. And I do appreciate you. Is there anything you would like to say to wrap this thing up here?
Um, just to stay focused on the end game. Stay focused.
Damn.
Because once you lose your sight, hard to get it back.
It is. And we're gonna too, we're next time we're gonna delve into the spirituality thing. But again, we want to thank the people for your time and let you all know that you are loved. Again, this is April Bassetti, owner of You Thrive Coaching, and we are here to send some messages, and to let everyone know that they are not alone. You are not alone in your trials and your tribulations, okay? You are definitely not alone. That is a fucking illusion, all right? And so we always want to give thanks to the brave souls that come on this show and spill their guts, you know, just to spread the word and let people know that they're not alone and that there is a way out of this. So as I said, we want to thank Crystal, and Crystal will be back. Okay, because she has a magnificent, powerful story. As I said, we are both on mommy duties right now. So this is
Exactly.
kind of like all over the place. But shout out to the mommies that are watching this and the single dads, you know what I'm saying? Letting you know that you can still get done what you need to get done with the little ones, okay? So we love you guys so much. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back. We'll be back. We'll be back. We will be back.